All right, Chantel, bring us back up, please.
You are up.
All right, and you're up. Please introduce yourselves. And
All right. Well, I'm Skylar Beebe. I'm the Public Transit Director with the City of Pocatello, and of course, we operate as Pocatello Regional Transit.
And my name is Lori Keys. I am the Mobility Manager from CCOG, the Southeast Idaho Council of Governments.
okay.
And so I like to bring, you may recall last time we brought Tara Contreras, and I always like to bring them along with us. She's fairly new, Lori's fairly new, but she plays a very vital role for our system-wide, with educating citizens about how to ride the bus. She actually goes with and rides with them on occasion, goes to the senior centers and different things about education about riding the bus system. And maybe I'll just give you a brief overview of Pocatello Regional Transit. So we've been in existence for about 50 years now, which is kind of exciting for us. But we operate in 7 different counties throughout southeast Idaho, and of course Bannock County is one of those. Of course, our main system is within the city limits here of our urban program. So everything outside of essentially the Pocatello Chubbuck city limits is considered our rural program. And so the funding that we've received from Bannock County for many years, which we are very appreciative to help maintain the service, has been just over the $10,000, so $10,300. And which we're not asking for an increase in that. We're just asking for the flat amount. And just to give you some perspective of the services, the service is open to everyone that lives within the county, and within the 7 counties, of course, that we serve. But to give you an idea, again, it's open to the general public. Our seniors, those that are 60 and older, because of funding through CCOG with the area aging, our senior citizens can ride at a suggested donation, and so if they want to pay $1 or $0, they can certainly ride our system. And because again, the grant funding we receive from area aging helps to sustain that service. I can tell you that majority of all of our seniors will always pay the donation of the fair amount and sometimes more, which we're very appreciative because again, it helps to sustain the system. Here in the Bannock County, just to give you an idea, our operating costs in the rural end of Bannock County is about $35,000 for the fiscal year 22. And with that, as far as ridership, as you may recall from the last couple times that we've come, ridership was really kind of took a dive with the COVID, with the pandemic, as it did across the United States with public transit in general. But we are happy to report that in fiscal year 22, our ridership was just shy of 3,000 boardings. And from fiscal year 21, that was about a 19% increase in just rural Bannock County. And so that's a great thing. That's a higher trend than we have in some of our other areas. So that's a really, really good thing. And so again, we appreciate your contribution. The rural Bannock County gets intertwined sometimes with our urban, as you may recall from the last time, because we have people who are living in kind of rural Bannock County, so we'll send an urban bus to go get them and bring them in rather than having other buses go, just depending on where they're at in the county. And so it gets intertwined just a little bit there. But the services, again, are open to anyone that are in the county. And so we try to, on occasion, we're not able to serve everyone just because of logistics. And so if we can intertwine transportation amongst a route that we're already doing, we'll try to always do that. And sometimes it gets a little tricky if we have someone that's in a, say Downey, and they want to do a single trip. That gets a little tricky for us to send a bus out and back, and trying to be good stewards of the money that we receive. We do have a shopping day that we have our Soda Springs bus that comes through once a month. We haven't done it in a little while because we haven't had the ridership, but it is available if anyone wants to take advantage of that. Usually in the past it was residents in Lava and McCammon who would catch the bus and come to Pocatello. We also have a shopping day on the 1st and 3rd Mondays of the month that comes from Malad. And then I just talked to someone recently that lives in Aramo. We have a senior there that if she wants to ride, we'll swing in there and start picking her up, and others. We said, hey, spread the word, because any others that are here that you'd like to do that, we'd love to pick them up. So As far as our funding goes, to give
So,
you, yeah,
while you're there at the shopping days,
yes.
so what's their schedule like? And then when they get here, are they able to use the inner buses?
They are.
In town to go from place to place?
Yeah, typically what we do is if it's, depending on the route, typically we'll have the bus come down and it's kind of the bus and the driver's dedicated here all day, and they just stay, that same group stays on the same bus and the same
okay.
driver. We do have some that can, like our Soda Springs bus is coming here almost daily for Medicaid trips. And so on occasion, we'll pick citizens up in Lava, McCammon, Inkum, and then they will spend the day here and then go back in the afternoon when that bus goes back. So they have a lot of different options once they get here. And then, you know, with those groups, usually a lot of times we like to have our senior centers kind of help coordinate those trips so that they can kind of put it all together, and then we put it into the system and the driver takes them. And most of our seniors know their drivers well because it's the same one, and, and they enjoy that.
Do they stop off and have lunch at the senior
Yeah, they
center?
do, yeah. And, you know, on usually our Wednesdays and Fridays, they will, you know, we take seniors to the senior centers. We're trying to recoup, we lost a lot of seniors, you know, with COVID and the pandemic that quit going to the seniors centers for lunch and that. And so we're starting to see some of them pop up a little bit, but of course we'd always love to have more of our seniors riding. But as far as funding, just to give you an idea, so we're public transportation. We definitely don't get a profit, and we're not designed to. We operate under the Federal Transit Administration of the federal government. And so with that, with all the funding that we receive, we're grant funded by a lot. Our operating is 50% grant funded, and then our capital expenses for our buses and so forth are usually grants that are 80% funded with grants. And so that's where the local match becomes very vital and important to operate any of the public transportation systems across the United States. And in this scenario, your contribution has been so vital and important to us and important to the citizens that are using the system. We have folks who don't have cars, that are disabled. I mean, about every box you can check there. And so it really gives them an opportunity to get out of their homes and be able to have access to shopping, doctor visits, whatever it might be. And so we just appreciate your support and working. I don't think I have anything else, unless you had questions for me. I thought I would just let Lori to kind of talk a little bit more about what she does. So did you have any questions for me?
John?
What was your fiscal year 22 ridership?
For rural Bannock County,
Yep.
it was just shy of, well, exactly, it was 2,948
2009, is that total trips for the year?
for the year for rural Bannock County.
Total trips?
Yeah.
Or total riders for the year?
Total, right, well.
Total riders.
Yeah, it's total trips, so
It's
that
total
wouldn't be
trips.
total riders, yeah.
So that's the same as total riders?
No, total trips, so I couldn't tell you how many actually people that would be. That's how many trips we perform.
Okay, so you could have like 5 people on a trip.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So, as mobility manager, I take care of the education and outreach. So I will go visit senior centers. I'll go to events that they have going on in town or out of town and just kind of tell everyone about the bus, tell them how to ride the bus, and just kind of encourage everybody to use public transportation. And then as well as do social media and that kind of thing.
And I might just add, as far as our buses that we have, they are fully ADA accessible. So regardless if someone's in a walker, wheelchair, or just like me and they hurt their back a few months ago, they can use the wheelchair lift to get up in. But our vehicles are all ADA accessible. And one thing I will mention as well, and I always try to mention this to all of our cities and counties, if you ever have an official meeting that you're doing as commissioners, we're not allowed to do charter service, if you will, but we are allowed under the Federal Transit Administration to do 80 hours of essentially kind of charter service in respect to government official business. So if you ever have a meeting that if you don't want to take separate cars and you'd like to all go together, that's something we can help with. And that's just as a courtesy, essentially. There's no cost intertwined with that.
Okay. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, and we've had, we don't have it a lot, but we've had the city of McCammon take advantage of that. And, when they had some projects out there, I think we did one for American Falls once.
How far can you travel?
Usually within the county.
We got meetings in Moscow next week.
Yeah, I was just thinking, no. No more flying.
You might be really shaken up by the time you get out there, but, we don't have that great a suspension. But anyways, no, just so you are aware of that, I know our city council and the city of Pocatello has used that a few different times, and it is a great opportunity if you ever have meetings like that. So just know that's available to you.
So, something like that, when we have the Bannock County Fair
Mm-hmm.
in Downey,
Yeah.
could you run charter services that week? Not, well, you said not
Yeah.
charter services, but,
Yeah.
So
we're pretty much, because of the funding that we receive from the federal transit, it's really designated for public transportation services. So when we get into something like that that's outside of our regular scope, we're pretty restricted.
Okay.
Now, with the difference with that is because it's, so if we were to do like a scheduled shuttle service, we couldn't necessarily do that, but if we had scheduled trips of those that are wanting to ride within the county, we can certainly do that.
And that's why I was just kind of wondering, like some of the veterans or the
Yes.
different organizations that
Mhm.
if we could offer a day
Yeah.
at the fair or a few hours at the fair,
Yeah.
it just,
And see, that actually completely ties in. We used to, with the Blackfoot Fair, we used to take a group from, well, I guess it was our Lava Senior Center. We used to take a big group from there over to the county fair, or the state fair, I should say, there. So yes, that is definitely available.
okay, we'll talk about that, think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, we could offer some rides to people to get down there.
Right, yeah.
That'd be a good deal. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, well, thank you. Now, I'm not sure if I can leave some of this information unless you already got it, but I have some of this again if you want some again.
Yeah, you can
Okay.
give it to Braden right there and he'll make sure it gets,
And what this is, it's the brochure for Bannock County, so you can see all the fairs, what it is. And then this one is the Senior Citizen Rider Guide. That's ultimately point A to point B, everything they need to know about calling and scheduling trips and that. So I'll leave this here for you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
all right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Family Services.
Hi there. My name is Sarah O'Banion, and I am the Director of Family Services Alliance, which is a nonprofit that supports domestic violence and sexual violence victims throughout Southeast Idaho and specifically in Bannock County. You should have received my proposal that I sent to Christy, so that should have been provided to you. What I thought I'd do is just kind of check in with you about the last time that we were together. We were talking about the emergency shelter, and so I thought I'd just give you a little bit of an update around the emergency shelter and then just highlight some of the things that we do throughout the year with the funds that the county provides to Family Services Alliance to support our community members. So just first and foremost, shelter is moving forward. As you guys know, we do have a leak there, and so we are putting folks in hotels alternatively right now. We're hoping to get through that as quickly as possible because that can really suck a budget, as you all know. And so we're hoping as quickly as possible that we can put folks back into the shelter, even if they're not able to use all of the bedrooms, but a portion. We think that would be helpful. I spent the weekend on call with one of our newer advocates, and so that kind of gave me a reminder about shelter really sort of pops up as it's needed. So I met with someone that we discussed the possibility of shelter because with the Clark ruling, typically an arrest for a misdemeanor level crime is not made. And so that can really increase safety concerns for victims of domestic violence who in the past have typically not seen their offenders until they're able to see a judge the following court day. Because of that, we find that our shelter numbers typically increase, and then also our requests for civil protection orders. So you'll often see our advocates in Bannock County Court. They spend a lot of time not only attending those hearings as people are either testifying against their offenders or asking for civil protection orders, but they also help people prepare for those hearings. I find that really helpful, that the languages that are used, just like when you go to the doctor, you know, they often speak a language that just really isn't understood. I was at the emergency department yesterday with a victim of sexual violence, and what I found is that I spent a little of my time with her kind of interpreting what the medical provider was saying to her as she was going through a sexual assault examination, kind of helping her kind of interpret that into daily language that we might use. And so that's an example of what our on-call advocates would do. Our on-call advocates respond on site with our local law enforcement friends, and that includes Bannock County Sheriff's Office. With Bannock County Sheriff's Office, we often respond on site when there's been a suicide in a home. We can offer some support to the people that are left behind and are experiencing very acute traumatic symptoms right in the moment, and so we can offer some support to those victims as law enforcement are doing their investigation and kind of processing the scene. And we find that's really helpful, that partnership between Bannock County and Family Services Alliance. We also are able to respond, you know, if there is a PREA, which is the Prison Rape Elimination Act, is something that we're sort of conscious of, and so we often work with Pocatello Women's Correctional Facility and also some of the local jails to support survivors if there is an allegation of sexual violence made, and so we can respond right on site to the jail if that's helpful. And sometimes detectives from the various agencies will ask us to come out and talk with someone because they know that there's some issues around domestic or sexual violence, even if someone has committed a crime, and so we're able to provide that care. We also provide long-term care, so we're one of the few organizations across the state that do both crisis intervention, so emergency shelter like you help us provide, but also long-term care. So we provide play therapy, we provide individual counseling, we provide EMDR therapy. We use evidence-based tools to support families as they're dealing with trauma symptoms and as they're moving forward. So we've been around for a long time. It was our 100-year anniversary last year, and we've learned through the years how best to support people when they have trauma symptoms. And most of the folks that we interact with have complex traumas, meaning that they have sometimes experienced a lifetime of abuse. They might have been an abuse survivor who experienced child sexual abuse as a child. They were in a teen dating relationship that had some violence. They ended up in a marriage with domestic violence, and we see that sort of cycle continue. And so we're able to help folks stop that cycle, recognize those maybe red flag behaviors, and help people increase their safety and empower themselves throughout the community. So we really appreciate the support that we have from Bannock County, and like I probably tell you every year, that sort of comes fiscally in two ways. Not only providing the domestic violence shelter, but also providing dollars that we use for our federal grants, which usually helps us bring in about $500,000 more dollars in federal grants yearly. And so we find those dollars really critical. And then finally, we have our fundraiser that's coming June 22nd at the Riverwoods, and I would love to see you there. I will sit right next to you the whole event because it is amazing to be able to sit with victims of abuse and hear them talk about moving from being a victim to a survivor. Hear them talk about what it was like to sleep in a shelter and not be afraid that they would be hit or strangled or sexually assaulted while they were sleeping. Hear them talk about what it's like to talk to a judge about what has happened to them, stand up to their offender and say, what you did to me was wrong, and I have a right to say that wasn't right. that's sort of some of the work that advocates are able to do with survivors. And because we know that gender-based violence is so common, we serve lots of folks throughout the community and throughout the county. And so we're really grateful for the partnership that we have with you to support our community. Questions for me?
So this fundraiser, June 22nd, time and place, did you say?
Yeah, June 22nd, and it's at the Riverwoods, which is the former Rosewood Event Center out on the old Bannock Highway, but it's now called the Riverwoods. It's been sold, and so we have chosen as an organization, rather we get some sponsorships for the event, but we do not charge a ticket fee because we use the event both as a fundraiser. So I'll let you spend your money in there. I mean, I'll sell you a raffle prize ticket, right? But also we like to make sure that people can hear from survivors. And so we usually have a short program. People have shared pieces of their stories. That's been kids, that's been adults, that's been people have used music, have used spoken word, a variety of things that sort of speaks to them about their experience and are able to share it with the community. And one of the things that I consistently hear from them is that they feel silenced. Victims of abuse often feel silenced. Celebration of voices is a way for them to feel heard by their community. And it's incredible when a community leader like a county commissioner is at that event and I can introduce them. That's incredibly powerful for them to know that they're being heard by our leaders.
And
What time is
did you say
that?
it was?
6 to 8 p.m. And it has really good food. I just got the menu, ribs are on the menu. So I'd love to see you there, and I'd love to show you the shelter as it comes back into place, or come see our offices and kind of see some of the improvements that we've been able to make over the years.
John?
Thanks so much.
I don't have any other questions now that I know what time and place the dinner is.
And raffle tickets.
And the raffle tickets, yes.
Yeah, and so the packets that I'm sure Christy will give you also have just a quick reminder of that. And I was working on invitations before I got here, so you'll be getting an invitation to that event soon.
So you're asking for an increase this year,
We're asking for 10,000.
and like we told most people,
Yep.
we
Don't expect that.
We are not cutting people at this time. We're just starting into the budget process.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at everybody's requests, and
Yep.
the hard decisions will come
Yeah.
at a later time. So I'm not telling you that yes and no, and I'm just saying
Yep.
thank you for being here
I
and
appreciate that.
representing. So thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity.
You bet.
I like this day for you guys because you get to see sort of all the fun nonprofit work that happens.
There's a lot of things go on around here. All right. Museum,
No, we're not up till 3:15, but, so we're early.
Hope and Recovery?
Yeah,
Come on up.
okay.
On the published budget, you're just in a time slot, or a time frame. Let's start at 1:45, so we can move people.
Sounds good. First of all, thanks for having us today. My name is Nancy Espeseth, and I am the director of what was once Hope and Recovery Resource Center. We have just changed names to Center for Hope South. A lot of reasons for that. We came in and had a management change in our company, and so we decided to change our name as well. Previously, Hope and Recovery was receiving, I believe, $50,000, and then when the old director left last July, he did not come and show up to this meeting, and then so this next year we went without, and now we're trying to get back into the swing of things. Okay.
Okay?
So what we are is we are a nonprofit, and we provide free recovery coaching support services, and that's a wide range of different aspects in recovery. It's recovery from mental health issues as well as substance abuse issues. And really what we are trying to do is be a gap filler in our community, finding out where we can be utilized, and help support people with their substance abuse issues. I threw together a couple of stats here in Bannock County. One of our main customers is the Crisis Center in the Portneuf Health Trust building. And what we do there is when somebody goes in either with a mental health crisis or a substance abuse crisis, we have recovery coaches, free of charge, we partner. They'll go in and they'll talk to that person because more than likely they've been where they're at. And our recovery coaches all have a lived experience of either mental health issues or substance abuse issues, or maybe both. And then they've taken a training and have a certification. So they'll go in with somebody maybe detoxing from alcohol and sit with them and say, hey, you know, been there, done that. This is what has worked for me. Give them so that they're not alone and gives them some hope. And so from there, when they leave the crisis center, they've established a person of support that can either get them into treatment, get them to their PO, get them back reunited with their family, whatever that person needs. Typically, it's about 75 clients a month that will be served at the crisis center through that. And then one of our other customers is all the treatment courts here at in Bannock County. The Wood Court, the Vet Court, Mental Health Court, and Drug Court. And what we do for them is we provide them free recovery coaching as well. A lot of their participants come to our center and do activities, which Kyle will talk about here in a little bit. But we've been keeping stats on that, and you know, January, February, and March, I kind of have some numbers laid out for you. As we've been going along, the numbers have been getting larger and larger. One of the things that we're working on right now is with Bannock County Jail. Our recovery coaches, and I'll have Kyle talk about a little bit about this as well, is we're trying to partner with the jail so that we can take recovery coaching into the facility. And so a person, an inmate in there, can have an avenue to a recovery coach and get them support when they're released. I know they're also talking about some case management as well, but we would be in the business of the recovery coaching piece. And so those are a couple of the things that we do. This is Kyle. I'm going to let him introduce him.
I have a quick question.
Yes,
right there.
what's that?
So some of these services that you're talking about, are any of those billable services?
So some of them are, but like if you're in the jail, it's hard to do billable services.
Right.
What we also try to do when a person like is just getting out of jail or getting out of prison, they'll come out and they're not a billable a faction at that time. When they're in the crisis center, sometimes it's the same.
Okay.
But yes, what we try to do is take that person for that short amount of time, get them to a treatment provider, and then the billable services happen then.
Happen there.
Yeah, kind of a readiness for treatment
Okay.
type of, does that make sense?
Well, with this, we don't need D6.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Oh.
But no, that's a good question because a lot of people ask that. We're not necessarily in the treatment realm. We don't have counselors or therapists, or we have self-help meetings, which you don't necessarily need a person for that. And then our recovery coaches. A recovery coach can bill with the treatment provider, but we find it in these facets as we're kind of in those gaps with the crisis center, with the jail, with the prison, with the behavioral health unit. If we're just that gap filler that can get them to treatment that they need.
So, if I understood you right, you guys had been receiving funding from Bannock County in the past
Yes.
for a while?
I think for about 4 years.
For
Yeah.
4 years, and then last year, though, you got no funding.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
And we didn't know it until we went to pick up the check, I think in October, and they said that the funding hadn't been renewed because somebody didn't show up to an appointment such as this.
How much funding were you getting back when you were getting funding?
50,000.
50,000. Who else funds your operation?
So we get some state funds,
Mhm.
usually between 100,000 and 150,000. And then what we have is all of our salaries are paid through a federal grant. We have,
One federal grant?
yeah, but they're sub-grants. So one is like a warm handoff grant. One is for our recovery center, and one is a PWCC grant. So what we have is we have for salaries, but what we lack is funding for operations.
Mm-hmm. Any other funding?
Cities?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So we have satellite offices, but the funds that we're here for today, we're not requesting for them. But sometimes the counties will give them money and the cities will give them money.
Actually, there's a very good program over in Caribou County.
Very good.
Very
Yeah.
good program with this over in Caribou.
Works with the drug court over there. Their county usually gives them $5,000 and the city gives them $5,000. But that's kind of we get about 270,000 in federal funds for payroll. And I believe this year we're supposed to get $150,000 for, to use as need be. But that still leaves us short for operations money.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so my name's Kyle Woodworth. I'm the program manager at the Center for Hope South. As Nancy was, I'm going to go over a couple things here. Nancy was talking about the Bannock County Jail. So I sit on the Recovery Support Services Subcommittee for the Behavioral Health Board. I'm one of the voting members. And so what we're trying to do is talk with the jail out there, and that way we can go in there and do presentations for the people that are sitting in jail and pick them up as they get out of jail, and we can fill some of those gaps. Like Nancy was saying, we're with lived experience, and so I'm looking at my experience whenever I was out at jail, in jail here. Whenever I got released, I had nobody to pick me up. I had no idea what I was doing. And so that's a big filler that we can help provide is picking them up, taking them to get signed up for court services, letting them know the other options in town for counseling, treatment, if treatment's on their list, just all the different resources here in the community. Then we can just keep going with it,
yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
everybody's a little bit different coming out of jail, right? And so we'd be able to meet them where they're at and cater to what it is that they need and what they have wrote up. We also have a family recovery night that we've been doing. So we went through our first 16-week program with it, and we're about to start our second time around with it. We've shortened it to 12 weeks this time because of feedback from the participants in that program from the first time around. But what we're doing is we're building communication with the family, helping kids know that their parents aren't their addiction, that they're people and they're good people, right? And to open up that communication and express our feelings, right? Letting the kids know that that's a normal thing, letting the parents know that's a normal thing. We go over in this a lot of different subjects, from communication, guilt and shame, grief and loss, trauma, goal setting, how we learn, healthy boundaries. This is all stuff we teach. So we come together, we provide dinner for the family as they come in. We'll help them build communication at the dinner table with that is what we do. And then we go into age appropriate breakout sessions. So 4 to 7, 8 to 10, 11 to 13, 14 to 17, and then adults. And at the end of that, we'll come in back together and talk about what we learned, starting with the youngest, moving to the oldest. And then we give out some kind of assignments for the week about service work is what I did last session, and I saw a lot of growth in this first session that we did, from families coming in and being kind of having that scared look on their face, to the growth of talking about how they couldn't wait to come back the next Thursday for the activity and to learn more. And I printed off a thing right here of just what some of the participants had to say. One of the youth participants said was, what I liked most was that I learned to respect myself. Another participant said, I loved the useful information for my children that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And so this is a educational program. It's not treatment, it's not therapy, it's strictly educational. All of the facilitators that are involved with it do go through a background check and through the criminal history unit here. And so we're not just letting anybody come in and do this, right? So that's one of the programs that we have in place, and then this Bannock County Jail release is our next project that we're working on, and I think it'll be a huge gap filler for people coming out of the jail that don't know exactly what to do or where to go.
And all the participants, it's voluntary.
Yes.
Nothing's court ordered or.
Yeah, everything's voluntary.
Okay.
So even with this family night, the first time around, we had 3 families that completed it. We had 7 or 8 families that showed up here and there, but it was all voluntary. They didn't have to come. So, I mean, with 3 families that showed up for 16 weeks, I mean, that kind of shows something right there, because they did it on their own, not with somebody telling them that they had to.
The goal is to try to get into maybe the family courts and have them as referrals, but that was our first year, kind of a pilot phase.
Okay.
This is Thursday night you've done this for 16 weeks up to now, but now you're going to do 12 weeks? Is that the plan?
Yeah, so we did it last year for 16 weeks, from August to December, I do believe was the time frame. And so we're about to start our second round in September is the plan.
And so you had last year, I guess, 8 families or so signed up at some point.
Yes.
But 3 of them stuck through the whole thing.
Yes.
And so on this Thursday night, what's the times? What are the hours?
5:30 to 7:30.
So 5:30 to 7, you've got a couple hours, so you come in, you have dinner, and is there a speaker during dinner or something like that, or how does it work?
So us as facilitators, what we do is we sit down with the families as they're eating dinner, and we open up conversation. So there's no cell phones, no electronics as soon as you come through the door. Like I ask everybody to turn those off, right? And so it's about building that connection and teaching these families how to build communication skills during the dinner time.
So you're going to have this discussion. Is there like a facilitator per family? Is that the way you're trying to do it?
At dinner time, that's about how it works, yes.
And then
because
after that, people go off so you'd have the kids at different ages and then the adults. And there's another facilitator, I'm assuming, working with the age groups, and then you come back together, have your discussions, assign some work for the following week.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep.
That's correct. And then
Activities.
activities here. So, and this year, coming out of COVID, we're starting to do our activities more. We started off the year just like doing some mini golf over at the arcade here. We had about 18 participants show up to it. It was one of our first events going on. A lot of good feedback from participants that came in for that event, though, because they never realized that this is something they could go and do and have fun with. We had Easter egg hunt at the center as well. We had over 50 people show up to that event. Families. We did some cookie decorating. We had a lot of good family recovery connection, right? We had a zoo activity last month where we had 92 people show up to the zoo and get to check out the zoo. We just rented it out for a couple hours for our recovery community to come and enjoy. Just this last Friday, we had a barbecue at the center with over 60 peers that showed up and their family. And so what we're doing is we're trying to strengthen this recovery community and show them that there's more to recovery than going and just sitting at an AA meeting, self-help group as well, right? So what we're doing is we're bringing people together to have good, healthy, sober fun.
Is this mainly drug and alcohol issues that you're trying to help people get over?
Yes, and mental health.
Okay.
Yeah, because a lot of them run hand in hand. And one of the
Right.
biggest things that we try to provide is that social interaction and support where they don't feel alone and actually can go and have some fun. But really, to your question, it is both.
So, I hate to say clientele, but
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
age groups, what's kind of your age groups of the people that you deal with?
So for services, we're 18 and over,
Okay,
but for our events and stuff, we're family friendly.
family oriented, but
Yeah.
Yes.
18 and over for your
Yes,
Exactly.
services.
and here's the other thing for all these events that everybody showed up to, not a single one of them had to pay to get in the door to have some fun. Like, that's what we do is we provide this free service to the community so that people can come together and enjoy this.
So now down to the reason you're here. What are you asking for?
You know, we have gotten 50,000 in the past. That would be great, but I'm very cognizant that where you have a gap year, it might be hard to get that back. And so for our operations in our Pocatello office is $37,000 a year that we do not currently have funding for. If we were to receive any more of that, it would be going to these activities. The other thing we're also looking at is hiring a new part-time recovery coach. But what we really need is the 37 for operations. One last thing that you know is a hot topic is the opioid crisis, and we do a lot with that. We have Narcan trainings at our facility, and then we are a hub for people to come and pick up Narcan. With the new legislation where it has to go to first responders, I know in Idaho Falls, I run the center in Idaho Falls as well, but what we're doing here is we're working with the first responders because they're busy. They need some help, and we're looking at they will bring us and drop off Narcan, or we'll go pick it up, and then we'll be a distribution point to hand out to people. And so we want to be a player in that. In our recovery community, I would say at least 2 to 3 people die of an overdose a month. And we just want to be on the front edge of trying to help that, curb that whatever way we can.
So the distributing of the Narcan, is that a free service or?
Yep.
Okay. John, anything?
That's all I got.
That's all you got? Okay.
All right, and you heard my spiel. We don't know where we're at yet with the budget.
Okay.
It does make a challenge when we divert money somewhere and then to try to come back.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I realize.
But you will be in the loop.
Okay. Thank you for your time.
All right,
All right.
thank you.
See you guys.
Is there anybody outside waiting?
There was one, I think.
You want to see if it's South Bannock County Museum?
The museum, I like those guys because I win a lot of raffles.
Oh,
Just to get back to the raffle topic.
come on in and introduce yourself and,
Hi Ernie, it's been a little bit.
yeah.
I'm Zach Stoddard. I run the South Bannock County Historical Center and Museum it's in Lava Hot Springs.
Okay, and tell us a little bit of John.
Hi, John.
He's new, but tell us a little bit about what's going on, what you're asking for, and what we've been giving you.
Well, I'm going to keep it at the 12,000 that we received from you, which is 3,000 a quarter. And that's kind of been a nice addition to us. In fact, this winter, it paid off a little more drastically than I thought it would, with a roof leak and some electrical work that needed to be done because of the roof leak, and then cleaning off the roof so we didn't end up like the Blue Moon, which was a sad addition to our history now.
Yeah.
So that helped a lot. In fact, we almost used all the full 12 grand just on those three alone.
And tell us a little bit about how often you're open, what your
So right now,
draw is.
during the winter, we do the Thursday through Sunday from noon to 5, and then I bump and add Monday during the summer and go 11 to 6. And well, this weekend was already a few thousand people in, just even asked for information. I probably only had about 300 go through the museum, which was still a good number for first day of summer. Yeah, and I'm excited to see a little bit more. I'm curious how it'll be for this first little bit, just because the water levels are so high. But after that, I think it'll start going full swing.
I heard people are already in the water.
Yeah, they brought their own kayaks and everything. It's pretty white watery right now.
So, what's your average attendance during the year?
During the year, oh goodness. This year it fluctuated just a little because of the water so far, but I'd say we're close to 10,000 as it stands a year.
And
This year for sure.
then what's the highlights in the museum?
The highlights right now are most of the history of the area. So we have a section for the Native Americans and to go over some of the tribal lands and how that came into part. We also cover the trappers and traders and the homesteaders that came in. And a lot of the newer stuff. Sadly, I have stuff in the museum that's my childhood now, because it's just outdated already. But yeah, we just updated our printing press to go over the history of the written word in the county and how it came for us, at least in the south portion, the local newspapers that were in the 40s and 30s. Just did another exhibit on Lava throughout the years, trying to get a little better understanding of what businesses were here as we progressed through the town's years. Trying to get more rest of the county on board to help us with that. It's a little tough sometimes. We're a unique town. But, and then we're working on a telephone one right now. So we'll have one all the way from I don't know if you guys ever remember the party lines.
Yeah.
Where you could have listen to your neighbor talk if you stayed long enough, all the way up to, oh goodness, first cell phone, the big bricks. Yeah, and some of the, oh my goodness, I just drew a blank. I teased my son about this the other day. Rotary phones, thank you. So yeah, that's our next endeavor. That kind of slows during the summer when we'll see way too many people to do an exhibit though. But yeah, it keeps us busy right now.
Questions? Well, it's just like we told everybody else. We have people come in and tell us, and we're looking at what the budget is, how much money we have. I don't anticipate going lower, but I don't guarantee. And you're not
grateful for
asking
what
for
we
any
get.
more. So that's kind of where we're at right now.
Yeah.
We just get started. This is our
There's a lot of,
beginning point,
yeah.
but we've been in the library, and John, I'd encourage you to stop by there.
We still enjoy the furnace and air conditioner you guys helped us out with a few years ago. It's been a nice adjustment.
Well, it's a busy community, and any time that we have the opportunity to
Yeah.
show off a little bit in different ways, it's a good deal. Anybody else? Further questions? All right. Well, thank you for
No
coming by.
problem. Appreciate the time. We'll see you next year.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that being said, we are adjourned for the day.